Good morning, everyone. Welcome to part 2 of our webinar series on getting started with BIM Collaborate Pro for Civil. This is part 2 of a 4-part series, and today we'll be learning how to control access within our Civil 3D BIM Collaborate Pro projects. I'm your presenter, Lucy Tang. At our CATS, my specialization is in the Civil 3D space and providing training for Civil 3D. Also with us today is my colleague, Dean Peterson. He will answer your questions as we go through the webinar. Definitely don't be shy and feel free to pop your questions into the Q&A pane as we go, or you can type in your questions at the end of the webinar. Here at our CATS, we are your digitalization partners for the e-com industries. What we do is we provide software solutions for your company's unique scenarios and unique goals from the suite of Autodesk products. We also provide full support services, education, and consultancy services. This is the agenda for today. We'll start off with a recap of part 1 in case you haven't seen it. But if you've missed out on it, don't worry. We do have it uploaded to our YouTube channel. Then we'll move on to adding project members, how to manage members at the account level, and assigning roles and permissions to your project members. In part 1, we learned how to initiate Civil 3D projects within the cloud environment. This included initial admin setup to facilitate project creation, how to create your folder structures for your teams, how to turn on model coordination spaces, and how to add files to the cloud from within Civil 3D. Now, at that point, our only members on the project are our account admins and project admins to set up the project. So today we'll be adding project members and how to control their access to different folders. So far, we've seen BIM Collaborate Pro through the lens of a project admin. Since their role is to manage members and their permissions, they're able to see every single folder and file in the project. Now, if you're a project member, seeing everything will not be useful to you. In fact, it may cause miscommunication and hamper how efficiently you can get to the files you need at any given moment. Thus, project members must be assigned permissions only for what they need to see. So now we're going to move on to the live demo to show you how things work in the product. So what I have is the same project I prepared for last time, and we'll be adding some members in there. So as you can see, I'm under the project admin module. Now you can add members through here on this button here. And it's not just through the project admin module where you can add members. You can add them in every single BIM Collaborate Pro module. For example, in Docs, you can add members from here, from Design Collaboration, as well as from the Model Coordination module. So let's click in here and see what that looks like. So clicking on the Add Members button would redirect you to this view. So you can type in your email addresses one by one. Or another quick way to do it is you can copy and paste from a spreadsheet. So that makes it a lot quicker. And you can add up to 100 members at a time. So once you hit enter, the following fields will populate where you can fill in these additional fields. As you can see, you can also add what company they're from and their access level. So company and roles also have something to do with assigning permissions. So I'll explain that further when we get to assigning access and permissions. But before we get into that, let's have a look at what managing members looks like from the account level. So when you click into the account admin module, this is what you'll see. From the drop-down at the top, you'll be able to choose which account you're looking at if you're the account admin for multiple companies. Managing members as the account admin is slightly different than the project admin experience. Where they're similar is how you add the members. So we'll go into the members tab here. So they function much like what we've seen before on the previous page for the project admin. You have a spot to add in your email addresses. You can assign your members a company or a role. The difference here is the added member is associated with the account you've added them to, but they have yet to be associated with a specific project under that account. From this card here, you're also able to add additional account admins and executive members. We don't really go into executive members here, but in a nutshell, executive members have access to special dashboards that give them a high-level overview of accounts and projects. To delete a member from an account, you simply click the ellipsis menu and remove member. But do keep in mind that when you delete a member from the account, that member is removed from every project that's associated with that account. Another thing to remember is if you add a member to a project, that member is automatically added to the account that project is for. Now let's get back to the details of assigning roles and permissions to members. So at the moment, I'm in the Members tab under my Docs module. So as I mentioned before, you can assign roles and companies while you're adding a new member. Another way to assign roles and companies is by going through the member profile. So you can bring this panel up by simply selecting any of your members' names here. So you can assign a company and a role after the fact. Now to set permissions, you can either right-click whichever folder you want to set permissions to, or you can go through the three dots menu and access your permission settings from there. So I'm going to add some members and give them permissions to the architecture file here. So I'm going to click add, and there are three different ways you can assign permissions. You can assign them individually, by company, or by role. So we've seen us add members individually. So that's by email. So I've got person A at ABC company com. Yep, so adding them by there. So I'm going to have to refresh so that it is those new members. All right, so adding permissions individually is by email, and it's the most straightforward. So with that method, you would be adding people one by one. So if you're adding a company or a role, that would batch apply access and permissions. So I'm going to see if, yeah, I can close out of there. So I'll get back to that page there. Ah, I see. So remember to hit send invitations once you do input your members. So you can also do access level here, but I'm going to leave them all as project members. So I'll send out the invitations. And I'm going to go back into Docs so I can manage their permissions. All right, so we were in the architecture file. So I'm going to right click and head into my permissions settings that way. All right, so let's say we're going to add a person individually. So person A, we can add them by member. And you can set a permission level here. So for example, let's say I want them to just be able to view. You can also add by company and also by role. So same concept, you just add, for example, I want to add my architects in here. And for architects, I will give them the permission to edit. And click add there. So using companies or roles is very useful for batch applying the same permission level you want. So one thing about roles is that only account admins can create roles. And once they're created, they will come down in the drop down for each member where you can assign them a role. The same goes for companies. So only account admins can create companies that you can group your project members into. So we've talked a lot about access and permissions. Now, when you first hear these terms, it may sound like they mean the same thing and are interchangeable. So let's go into further detail to explain what both of those terms actually mean. Access determines what type of member you are and what you're able to do. As a refresher, we'll go over each member type. First is the account admin. The account admin manages members at a company level and has complete access. This means the account admin is able to add other account admins, project admins, and project members. The account admin can also see every folder and file in a project. Additional things only an account admin can do is create roles and companies. In summary, account admins can do pretty much anything. So one step below them is the project admin. Now, project admins manage members at the project level. They're able to assign other project admins and can add other project members. Like the account admin, they're able to see every folder and file in a project. They can do everything except on account level and companies and roles. So these are the things they can't do. A project member cannot add other members at all. They also need to be assigned permissions by either an account admin or a project admin to be able to see any folders or files. So let's go into detail on permissions. So what are permissions? They control which folders project members can view and go inside, and also what they can do in each folder they have permissions to. So we have 4 types of permissions. There's the manage, edit, create, and view. We'll start from the most generous permission, descending to the most restricted one. The most generous permission is the manage permission. We're very familiar with this one as we've been looking at BIM Collaborate Pro, mostly through the eyes of a project admin. The manage permission allows you to view the entire folder structure, view, download, upload, and edit files, as well as publishing markups. It's also a given that if you have the manage permission, you are given full administrative rights. So this can be assigned to members that are not project admins. By default, account and project admins do get this permission on their own. So the next level down is the edit permission. This one allows you to view, download, upload, and edit files, and you can also publish markups. It's one step below the manage permission because anyone with the edit permission has to be assigned this permission to a folder before they're able to see it. This is the same case with the following permissions we'll talk about. Next level down is the create permission. You can view, download, upload, and publish markups, but that's it. You don't have rights to edit anything. And finally, the most restrictive permission is the view permission. With this one, view and download. Now, combining what we now know about each permission level with the to assign permissions on an individual, company, and role basis, there can be some confusion on what level permission a user actually has. For simplicity, let's say we have one folder we're assigning 2 members permissions to. So Jake here, we've assigned him to this folder as an individual with a managed permission. His company has no rights to this folder, and his role as a BIM manager also has the managed permission to this folder. Lily, on the other hand, is assigned the view permission on an individual basis. Her company has the create permission, while her role as an architect has the edit permission to this folder. So clearly there's a conflict in permissions for both Jake and Lily. Whenever there's a permissions conflict, the most generous permission is what's applied. So in Jake's case, sure, his company has no rights to this folder, but his highest permission level is manage, and that is the permission level he will have. And in Lily's case, her highest permission level is the edit permission. So that is the permission she will have in this particular folder. One last thing to remember regarding permissions is the best practice for how you want to assign your permissions levels along the folder structure for each member, company, or role. A key thing to remember in this regard is that subfolders inherit their permissions from their parent folder. So what does this mean? I'll show you inside the product. So I'll go back to my permissions here. So I see that this member here has the manage permission. Actually, I'll swap it to this one. So let's say I'm going to put manage permission on this member for the architecture folder. And if I want to change permissions in the consumed folder, if I try to change it to any permission lower than the manage permission, you'll see that I get a bubble here. It says cannot lower permission because it is inherited from a parent folder. So that means you can only have increasingly generous permissions as you go down the folder structure into the deeper subfolders, but you cannot have more restrictive ones because the subfolder has to have permissions that are the same or greater than its parent folder. So the correct way to do this is, for example, I go back to my parent folder here, and I can assign view and download only for the architecture parent folder, and inside consumed, I am now able to bring it up to the edit permission. So with this in mind, what you want to do is assign your most restrictive permission on your higher level folders. After that, you can assign increasingly generous permissions to subfolders further down. So that concludes part 2 of our Getting Started with BIM Collaborate Pro series for Civil. Join us next time for part 3, where we'll be covering in detail how to sync your Civil 3D projects with the cloud. This will include an introduction in how to use the Autodesk Desktop connector, along with project selection, file lock and unlocking, and also file versioning within BIM Collaborate Pro. Additional resources where you can learn more about both BIM Collaborate Pro and ACC are at learnacc.autodesk.com and our YouTube channel. At learnacc.autodesk.com, if you go to their learning paths here, you'll find free video tutorials that show you the ins and outs of every ACC product, including BIM Collaborate Pro here. You can also find us on YouTube by searching Arcants ANZ. Today's webinar will also be uploaded there. On our channel, you can also find our past webinars and additional video tutorials.